I turned 62 last spring. I thought I had seen every surprise marriage could offer. I was wrong. My wife, Monica, and I live outside Asheville, North Carolina. The kids are grown. One grandson visits when he can. The house is usually so quiet you can hear the refrigerator humming. I spent 35 years as an electrician. Monica retired from hospital administration 2 years ago. We were supposed to enjoy this stage of life together. Instead, lately it felt like we were two people politely sharing a kitchen. That Tuesday, I heard a knock and opened the door to find our neighbor, Curtis, holding a package. "Driver left this at my place by mistake," he said. The box was small, wrapped in brown paper, and had my wife's name on it. What caught my eye was the return address. There wasn't one. Only a handwritten note. For Monica. Personal. I set it on the counter and forgot about it for almost an hour. Then Monica came home from grocery shopping. She saw the package and stopped so suddenly that a bag of apples slipped from her hand. 38 years of marriage teaches you things. You learn every smile, every sigh, every little twitch. That look on her face wasn't surprise. It was fear. She grabbed the box. "Where did this come from?" "Neighbor brought it over." She nodded too quickly. Then she carried it straight into our bedroom. No explanation. No joke. Nothing. Men, what would you think? I gave her 10 minutes before walking down the hall. The bedroom door was closed. I could hear drawers opening. Then I heard something I hadn't heard from my wife in years. Crying. Soft. Controlled. Like she didn't want anyone to know. When she came back into the kitchen, her eyes were red. I asked the obvious question. "Everything okay?" She forced a smile. "Just old papers. Nothing important." I looked at her for a long moment. We've buried parents together. Raised children together. Survived layoffs and surgeries together. And suddenly my wife couldn't look me in the eye. That night, after she fell asleep, I noticed something unusual. The package was gone. But a small brass key sat on her nightstand. I had never seen it before. And I had a terrible feeling that the box hadn't contained old papers at all. I thought it was just a strange package. I didn't yet realize it was the first loose thread in something much bigger. I woke up before sunrise and that little brass key was still sitting on the nightstand. I almost picked it up. Almost. But I've learned something after 40 years of marriage. If you start acting like a detective before you have facts, you can destroy trust faster than any secret ever could. So I left it there. At breakfast, Monica barely touched her coffee. "You sleep okay?" I asked. "Fine." Another short answer. That wasn't my wife. Monica could turn a simple weather report into a 10-minute conversation. I decided to watch and listen. Over the next 3 days, things became stranger. She started carrying her phone everywhere. Even to the laundry room. Twice I walked into the den and found her staring at old photo albums. One afternoon I saw a picture on the table. It was from our daughter's college graduation nearly 20 years ago. Monica quickly closed the album. "You've been looking through a lot of old pictures lately," I said. She smiled, but it looked tired. "Just feeling nostalgic." I nodded. But the word didn't fit. Nostalgia doesn't make your hands shake. That evening I was taking out the trash when our mailbox caught my attention. A plain white envelope sat inside. No stamp. No address. Just my wife's name. I carried it into the kitchen. The color drained from her face again. For the second time in 1 week. "I'll take that," she said quickly. I didn't let go. "Monica, what is going on?" "Nothing." That answer stopped working 3 days ago. She looked at the envelope and then at me. For a moment I thought she might finally tell me the truth. Instead, she took a slow breath. It's something I need to handle. Alone. She didn't say the last word, but I heard it anyway. That stung more than I expected. After all these years, I had become the man she couldn't trust. I handed her the envelope and walked outside. I sat on the back porch until dark. You reach my age and you understand something important. Silence in a marriage is rarely about one moment. It's usually years of little things left unsaid. When I came back inside, Monica was asleep on the couch. The envelope was gone. But another thing had appeared. An old photograph lay on the coffee table. I picked it up. It showed Monica standing beside a man I had never seen before. The picture looked recent. And on the back, in fresh blue ink, were 4 words. You deserve the truth now. I thought I finally understood what was happening. I was wrong. I stared at that photograph for a long time. The man looked to be around my age. Gray hair. Denim jacket. One hand in his pocket. He wasn't standing close to my wife. There was no romance in the picture. But that wasn't the point. I had never seen him before. And after 38 years of marriage, there shouldn't have been many mysteries left. The next morning I slipped the photo into my jacket and drove to breakfast with my old friend Roger. We worked together for years before he retired from the utility company. Roger listened without interrupting. Then he looked at the photograph. You think she's having an affair? I don't know what I think. He nodded. Then don't decide before you have facts. Smart man. I spent the afternoon in my garage, pretending to organize tools while my mind ran in circles. Around 4, our daughter, Leah, called. I almost didn't answer. Then she said something strange. Dad, is Mom okay? I sat up straight. Why would you ask that? She called me last night. She sounded upset. What did she say? Nothing, really. She just asked about old family pictures. I thanked her and hung up. Old photographs again. That evening, Monica went to the grocery store. I didn't follow her. I didn't search her purse. But I did something else. I opened the hall closet where we keep old boxes and albums. If pictures mattered so much, maybe they held the answer. An hour later I was sitting on the floor surrounded by memories. Birthday parties. School plays. Vacations. Then I found something odd. An envelope tucked inside a photo album from 15 years ago. Inside was a newspaper clipping. It was about a fire at a small apartment building in Tennessee. One person had died. The name in the article made my stomach tighten. It was the same man from the photograph. Or at least it should have been. Because according to the newspaper, he had been dead for 15 years. I heard the front door open. Monica was home. I slipped the clipping back into the envelope just as she walked into the hallway. She looked at the boxes around me and froze. Then her eyes landed on the newspaper clipping in my hand. For a second, I thought she might faint. Where did you find that? She whispered. I slowly stood. That's what I was about to ask you. She looked at me with tears already forming. Then she said the last thing I expected. The man in that picture isn't dead, Grant. I felt the room tilt. Because if she was telling the truth, then someone had lied to us for 15 years. I set the newspaper clipping on the table and looked my wife straight in the eyes. Start talking. Monica sat down slowly, like her legs no longer trusted her. The man's name is Walter, she said. And he's my brother. I just stared at her. In 38 years of marriage, my wife had never once mentioned a brother. Not once. I thought I had misheard. You don't have a brother. She closed her eyes. I do. The room became very quiet. Then she told me a story I never saw coming. When she was 20, her older brother struggled with alcohol and gambling. He borrowed money from everyone in the family and disappeared more than once. One night there was a fire in the apartment building where he lived. A body was found. The authorities believed it was Walter. Their mother identified a few personal belongings and the case was closed. Monica never questioned it. They buried an empty casket. She cried as she said those words. Then, 3 months ago, she received a letter. No return address. Inside was a recent photograph and 3 sentences. I'm alive. I'm sick. I need to see you. I felt my anger cooling and my confusion growing. Why didn't you tell me? She looked down at her hands. Because I was ashamed. Ashamed of what? That I never looked for him. That I accepted he was dead because it was easier. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Then she told me the rest. Walter had been living in another state under a different name. He had cancer. The package contained family photographs he had kept all these years. The locked box held old letters from their mother. The envelope from the mailbox contained directions to a hospice center in Tennessee. I sat down across from her. Monica, why carry this alone? She looked at me as if I had asked the hardest question in the world. Because you've always been the strong one. I didn't want to burden you. There it was. Not betrayal. Not another man. Just fear and guilt wrapped in silence. I reached across the table and took her hand. After all these years, she still didn't understand something important. Marriage isn't about protecting each other from pain. It's about carrying it together. Then she whispered something that changed everything. He doesn't have much time left, Grant. And he asked to see me tomorrow. I thought I finally understood the situation. But I hadn't yet decided whether we were going alone or together. The next morning I packed a small bag and put it by the front door. Monica looked at it and then at me. You're coming. I almost laughed. After 40 years together, you still ask questions like that? She started crying again. This time I let her. Some tears don't need fixing. We drove to Tennessee mostly in silence. Not the cold kind of silence we'd had these past weeks. This one was different. Peaceful. Honest. The hospice center sat on a hill surrounded by old oak trees. Walter was thinner than I expected. Time and illness had taken nearly everything except his eyes. Those eyes looked exactly like my wife's. He smiled when he saw her. I wasn't sure you'd come. Monica took his hand and cried like a little girl. I stepped outside and gave them time. An hour later, Walter asked me to come back in. I owe you an apology, he said. I frowned. You don't owe me anything. I helped create this secret. He explained that he had begged Monica not to tell anyone until she decided whether she could forgive him for disappearing all those years ago. Then he looked at my wife. You married a good man. I squeezed Monica's shoulder. For the next 2 days we stayed nearby and listened to stories I'd never heard before. Childhood memories. Family jokes. Old regrets. Walter passed away 3 weeks later. At his small memorial service, my wife held my hand so tightly my fingers hurt. I didn't pull away. On the drive home she finally said the words she'd been carrying. I'm sorry I shut you out. I kept my eyes on the road. I know. I thought I had to handle it myself. That's where you were wrong. She nodded. We talked for hours that night at our kitchen table. No phones. No television. Just 2 people who had almost let silence build a wall between them. We made a promise to each other. No more carrying heavy things alone. No more protecting each other with secrets. Because secrets rarely protect a marriage. They isolate it. People ask if I forgave my wife. Of course I did. Not because I was weak. Because strength means understanding that good people sometimes make foolish choices when fear takes over. A month later, Monica placed the little brass key in my hand. "You keep it," she said. "What for?" She smiled. "So neither of us forgets." The box now sits on a shelf in our living room. Inside are old photographs, faded letters, and a lesson that took us nearly 4 decades to learn. Love isn't proven when life is easy. It's proven when the truth is painful and two people decide to face it together anyway. What would you do if the person you trusted most kept a painful secret to protect themselves? Sometimes the real danger isn't the secret itself, it's the silence around it. One quiet conversation can save an entire marriage.